welcome to another episode of Sage Cigarettes Presents A Ghost in the Magazine. I'm Steph.
And I'm Elle.
And we're high because it's 420. Happy 420, even though it won't be 420 when you hear this. Amen. This week's movie was Wicker Man. A Daddy Cage
Wicker Man
classic.
I mean, the bee thing is a meme, so.
It is a lot of memes, and I refuse to look at them because I already had so many feelings about this movie. And going into watching this movie, I remembered I have seen it before. However, the only thing that I remembered, one, really disappointed, and two, the ending. And I'm still pretty disappointed.
I hadn't watched it before, and because I had gotten talking with a friend about this movie, I was like, what about the old one, the 1973 version? So I watched it.
Give you context.
Yeah, it does. The 1973 movie, which they pull a lot of different scenes and lines from, what would I say? The voice of the 1973 movie is so much more agnostic. It's not really taking a side. There's not really good and bad. There are bad behaviors that each side has to some extent. I feel like this one sets you up to only sympathize with Nick Cage and no one else and see everyone else as the bad guy, even though Cage is a piece of shit.
I did not sympathize with him.
Yeah, but he's the damaged man, Steph, who saw so much.
All right, listen here, okay? I don't know shit about statistics. Like, I can't give you specific numbers. However, I know that there is a large number of people in law enforcement who need therapy and don't go to therapy because they see crazy shit. So, like, I don't mean to be an insensitive, but, like, you chose that life, bro.
I see where you're coming from, but I do see the way that it's written, it tries to be sympathetic to him in a way that the other movie, the police officer was always preaching at everyone, generally acting like an uppity piece of shit. But at the same time, he did get murdered in the end. So bad things happen on both sides there. But I didn't feel like the film in general had a side that it was on, where I felt like this one was saying that the women were all a bunch of crazy bitches.
So yes. All right, so let's go through the plot a little bit, okay? Daddy Cage is a cop. He witnesses a bad thing. A mother and a daughter who honestly, the daughter was throwing a temper tantrum and throwing her doll out. As a motorcycleman, I wouldn't recommend picking the doll up and then using your police sirens to pull them over to return the doll. That seems like mad stupid, but whatever. Pull someone over, I guess. Swing your dick around. Pulls him over, gives it back, and then she throws it out again because she's shitty. And then they get exploded by a semi-truck. And so then he's traumatized and he goes on administrative leave. This whole scene really bothered me. It seems like nobody really gives a shit about each other at all. Like, the relationships within the police force aren't real. Like, they're not really there. It's very table read to me. Like, they just fucking met each other. But one thing I have come across a lot is that no matter how bad his character is, Nick Cage will act his fucking ass off.
He was a very convincing piece of shit in this movie. The thing is, in the old movie, the cop just gets a random unsigned message. There's no connection. And in this one, they try to, again, make it more sympathetic because he's being tricked by his slut baby mama. That is, again, like, I hate the filmmakers here. But he gets that letter, and it's from his ex, who says, I'm living on this island, and the local law enforcement won't do anything, and they took my kid. And obviously, he's just been traumatized with a little kid involved, just like the little girl that's missing here. And so it's this hero's arc that they try to put him into, where he's going to save this child for the one that he could not because he is a virtuous police officer, And
oh my God.
They're trying to be sympathetic for people that aren't me. I'm not going to fall into this, but I could see what they were doing and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I know.
But another thing is for them being cops. He goes in and tells one of the other cops, I think the boss, is that he's considering going to help this little girl. And he's like, I don't recommend that. If you're a cop and you care about helping people, why don't you call the local precinct?
But here's the other thing. That's well outside of this guy's jurisdiction.
Oh, yeah. My point is, though, if you're a cop and you get a letter like this and you're a lawful good, don't you put a call in to Captain Bubba at the precinct that's in charge of that place? They say that a child is missing and nobody's doing anything about it. What can you tell me about this case? Police shit.
Think so. However, and I know that not all cops are decent people. And with the massive amount of missing people cases, it would probably just fall through the cracks anyway. He's one of those dudes who, yeah, I'm on vacation. It's not really a vacation, but like I have time off. What am I going to do with myself? I'm still going to work. I'm going to make a nuisance of myself instead of getting the help that I need. The island's fucking weird. All the women are weirdos. There's a few men and they don't really talk or anything. They're the bitches.
They can't, they're drones.
I was trying to find some redemption here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the bees were a noticeable thing where he's squeezing the empty honey container and he's like, why do you guys have store-bought? I thought you grew this shit here or whatever. And she looked at him like, men don't get honey, asshole.
Okay, so that's in the original movie too, but it's apples. And he goes to this Scottish island, and the cop's like, so you don't have any fresh fruit that you are known for? And it's because the harvest was bad the year before, blah, blah, blah.
So one thing I can say about the bees is that I saw somewhere that this scientists are horny for this movie because it is like the most realistic description of bees in a movie ever. I think it's just actual bees and not what the bees are supposed to represent. People are literally using this movie for memes.
Can we talk about the landing scene though? The guy's gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. What were they gonna do? Like cover you in honey and feed you to their bees?
Obviously, that's what they were going to do.
Sister Summer's Isle was gonna magically appear and punk your ass?
I like that the lady that greeted him had a rat tail. And the whole, your bag is dripping, your bag is dripping.
I just had a mini stroke.
That was one of those moments where Nick Cage brought this movie to having something. Usually a movie that just uses pagan religion as a boogeyman, I am 100% out. This is bullshit. I'm not even entertaining it. I'm not wasting my time. Cage just hamming it up throughout is the only thing that saved this movie for me.
I wonder if he had to take breaks in between takes. Like he's like, I need a chuckle break. I'm so ridiculous.
Another thing is when I read his name, Edward Malis, I thought it was like Malice, and I was like, that's a little on the nose. But then when I saw the colony and how matriarchal it was and how anti-men they were, his name being Male is, so I was like, fuck.
Oh, fun fact. It's not really fun. Okay, so his name is Edward
Malis.
And the lady's name is something. And then the cop in the original movie, his name was Edward, and then whatever this lady's last name is. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh.
All of the parallels in this movie were underwhelming.
You know who should be embarrassed? The baby mama. Because, okay, first of all, she's probably the prettiest one who lives on this island. She doesn't look like the rest of them. She has like these huge, beautiful lips. But also, whenever he's confronting her on shit and he's like really aggressive, she like looks around like she has no idea where she is. And he's like, you live here. You don't know anything about where you're from? And she's like, what? Even though I wrote you a letter to lure you here. I don't know.
Okay, so this relationship between the cop and the baby mama, that's new for this movie because the last one, the cop didn't know the person. So they take away all of the justification that the, I guess, cult has. The justification with the cop character in the original movie was that they had all of these different parameters he had to fall in to be a good sacrifice. And one of them was he had to be a virgin, which the other cop was because he was saving himself for marriage like a good Christian that was looking down on everyone else who was like fucking in the yard.
From Velocipaster?
Good old Pastor Doug. Everywhere that they could strip out something that made the other side of this sympathetic at all, these filmmakers did. We want to make sure everyone knows that these females are bad.
Let's go back just for 2 seconds to when he arrives on the island. Did you notice how fucking tan he was? It looked like he had a spray tan, like they gave him some Jergens. Since I know you don't like the sun, and he used a little bit too much. And I was telling this to Chris when we watched it, and they were like, Mr. Cage.
I get what they were trying to do with that, though. Because all of the crunchy Pacific Northwest women living under the cloud cover were very white. Ghost. They wanted him to look like a Californian. You know,
he did not look like a Californian.
He looked like an orange man.
Literally. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Daddy Cage. We still love you.
We still do. So, Cage goes a little bit crazy. I noticed in the classroom, he's questioning children. There are like bee drawings in the back of the classroom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, who's this little girl? Who's this little girl? And then he's like, whose desk is that? You're lying. And the kids are like, who's the strange man? The teacher's very strange about everything. And the story here is just very unclear. And then she tells him, oh, she died in an accident. They said that they don't use the word dead there. But then she says very clearly, we had to rewind it because I knew I was right and Chris was wrong. She'll burn to death. And he was like, what did you say to me? And she said, she burned to death. That's too much for me, bro.
Well, okay, so I'm on a tangent a lot on this specifically. So, first of all, they stole this one directly from the 1973 version. They didn't really rewrite anything that much. And her dialogue is a lot from that version, which makes more sense in the context of the rest of the movie. And I think that that's why it's so awkward and weird. And the crow in the desk in the original is a beetle that's on a thread going in a circle. And the funny thing is that the beetle just keeps going round and round and round.
But like him.
And it's kind of like that Ouroboros of it eating its own tail, kind of like always.
I love Ouroboros, okay? I get so geeked when I see it in things.
Okay, so I'm about to rabbit hole. On the blackboard in that classroom is a stanza from The Marriage of Heaven and Hell by William Blake. And without contraries, there's no progression. That is the line right before the part that they put on the board. And it's good and evil are two sides to the same coin, and they need each other to exist. That whole idea. And that was where that ambiguity in that first movie really played into that theme. And I mean, I could see where that poem would fit into that first movie because they were feeding into each other. And the whole point of that poem is like all of this nuance, and they're not really being a line between good and evil in a sense because they're constantly fueling each other. Again, it's that Ouroboros symbol, the beetle moving in a circle, not just some fucking crow in a desk. And then Nick Cage goes and wipes his arm across it to write her name on the board. Just disrespects it on top of that. It shouldn't have been in there to begin with because it had nothing to do with this version of the movie. It may have been a good thing to have in that original, and I tried to figure out how it would fit into her lesson plan, and I guess maybe it's like some weird way for her to be like, well, we need men because they're the other side of the dichotomy and you need both to exist, which okay, but I don't like any of it. This whole scene, if he hadn't have like been such a freak, I think I would have turned the movie off at that point.
Yeah, I can see that. The scene where she just casually lets it slip that that's his daughter, which we don't even know if that shit's true. But what really bothered me about the scene, besides her being a huge bitch, is that there was this loud dramatic music playing in the background that did not match the tone of what they were doing at all. I'm like, I know you want me to connect here, but I don't. I don't. And then I said he's low-key narcoleptic, falling asleep everywhere. He fell asleep on the dock and was dreaming of dead little girls. It's a lot. Like, is this all because he's traumatized? Or,
I mean, maybe he was fucked up before. We don't really get to look at it.
That's true. They don't really elaborate.
But they do paint him as being the victim.
True. But he can't be much of a victim because when he got exploded in that car, not a single burn on him.
True.
Like, not a single one. So
he got blown back, though.
Yeah, he did.
Boom. He fell asleep then, too.
See, narcolepsy, bro. It's a disease. I'm
not
sorry,
a concussion.
narcoleptics.
It was definitely narcolepsy.
I think so. I really do. And I am no horny bee scientist either. What I do know is that the beekeepers reminded me of Handmaid's Tale.
I did say that the bees got their revenge on him for
True.
smashing the first one. He drew first blood. The other thing was him having a fatal bee allergy. It was very much othering, putting them on other sides, because he was so not part of that world that he was allergic to it. And he is the upright, law-abiding citizen. Well, they are the murderers. Those evil females.
I mean, we are, though.
My friend mentioned that when he's saying there's bees in my eyes, there's actually not. Like, they didn't bother putting those CGI bees on his eyes.
I mean, it's no Candyman.
True.
I still stand by him being the ultimate bee movie, Candyman. I don't care about the memes.
The hives on his arms afterwards, just as somebody who gets hives, those were gratuitously gross.
Yes, they were like big nipples.
Tiny titties.
Little tiny titties.
The other thing is she said that she healed him by the old ways, but then it doesn't explain it at all.
At all. And I'm like, what do you mean? She shit on his chest while he was unconscious.
Who knows? Maybe she blew weed in his face. Nobody knows.
And then she said, huzzah. It was really bad. So what ends up happening is this was all just a trick. Baby mama was such a good actress, lured him there so that he could be the sacrifice and burn in the Wicker Man so that they can have a good harvest. There was just so much more suspense they could have built here. Everybody was just fucking weird. However, I do see some poetic justice here. I don't know if justice is the right word. Maybe it's just poetry. The movie had mad Midsummer vibes, like really diluted Midsummer. And then he's in a fucking bear suit during the festival. And so was Christian in Midsummer, bro. And I think that that's beautiful. And I also looked that up because I don't think anyone has like sat down and wrote a fucking essay on it. The bears are like a really big symbol in Norse and Scandinavian mythology, but it's like closely associated with Odin, and I really, really wouldn't put them things together.
No,
But
this is
the
a
reason they did it in
matriarchal.
Midsummer was because Ari Aster was trying to twist that connection. Great. All that. Great. Midsummer is a phenomenal movie. Just, I feel like they just put him in a fucking bear suit.
Well, in the original, he stole the innkeeper's fool costume. And the fool was the sacrifice. The fool, the king for a day. There was all this symbolism. Another thing is after he gets stung, when he's talking to Sister Summer Isle, that is the same conversation that Lord Summer Isle in the original movie, that was played by Christopher Lee. And he was phenomenal. And he was so good at putting that cop character back in his place and making them look very effective and very well within their rights because he's coming into their culture and being disrespectful.
That's also very Midsummer because even though shit's fucked up in Midsummer, you're like, this is a whole other country, culture, religion. And well, no, it's not okay to like fillet a man's back open and set another one on fire. You know, just don't go there.
This character is played by Ellen Burstyn, who is the mom in The Exorcist. So, like, she is a famous actress with a horror pedigree, and I wanted to like her so much in that character.
She was nothing.
Yeah, it was just very bland. It was incredibly bland.
I actually didn't know that she was the mom in The Exorcist. I connect her to the Yaya sisterhood, and now I'm fucked up. Thank you.
Oh, I thought that was a really good casting choice, and then I saw it, and I think that maybe if I hadn't have watched the original, I would maybe not think it was so bad, but he played that character so well. Oh my god. It was such a good movie. It was a musical too. They did Scottish folk music throughout.
I'm really upset that I didn't watch it.
For me, I will just shut down if I feel like they're using pagan religions as a boogeyman, which is why I was afraid of watching Midsummer for so long. I didn't want to watch it because I didn't want to get mad at it.
But it was so good.
It was, and they framed it a different way, and it looked more like these racist motherfuckers rather than these pagan motherfuckers. The others didn't come in as good Christian kids, right? That wrong versus right dichotomy that those movies set up, and that's what I fucking hate. This movie did that, and in a really stupid way, because Edward Malis is not a good person, not a good character, not somebody that I could have any real empathy for, and I'm a very empathetic person. I thought he was an asshole, and my first note in this is ACAB includes Edward Malis.
We're not sorry for the things we say on this podcast.
We are not, although I still love Daddy Cage.
True. But there was this scene where he's like looking for the girl, I guess, and he barges into someone's house. And she's like, do you have permission to just barge in here? And he shouts at her, no, I don't need fucking permission. Like, are you crazy, bro? And he's like ripping kids' masks off and shit like a lunatic.
In the original movie, tells the kids, remove your mask, and he's an asshole about it. But I don't know, the way that they frame it's very different, in my opinion, because they're not trying to ram this guy down our throat as the good guy in any way. And I feel like these guys are. That's the intention of the film, is for us to see Edward Malis as the good guy, and he's not. I do like how Cage bitch slaps his way up to the girl at the end.
And he's just throwing bitches.
Like, all these old ladies.
Why?
Just like hit the ground.
And then Lily Sobieski, like he throws her against the wall.
Somebody needs to let the bodies hit the floor.
Yeah. Please do it. If you're out there listening, sure that's someone's niche. Let old bodies hit the floor.
And then he had some kind of Jet Li scene at the end where he's like surrounded. Yes, he's surrounded and he thinks he's gonna fight the whole fucking island.
Just accept your fate, Daddy.
The very end, when they're in the bar trying to seduce a Franco, who's also a cop.
It's a rotten cycle of life. Like, if that's really what you want to do, girlfriends, like, I guess more power to you. But it's stupid. It's real stupid. But then again, very midsummer, they send them out to befriend people and bring them back for sacrifice. Maybe they were inspired by the Wicker Man.
I hope not.
But I mean, if they did, that's real innovation there because they turned a steaming pile of remade shit into a masterpiece.
About that last scene, though, it's like, hey, baby, look into my eyes and hear the scream of a tormented Daddy Cage.
And then I went to bed right after. Yeah, 10 out of 10 wouldn't watch again. I'm gonna
No.
remember in another 10 years or whatever why I didn't like this movie and I won't put myself through this again. Any final thoughts?
I didn't like it.
I put how did it get burned? How did it get burned?
That was a classic Cage moment. That's why.
Literally.
How did it get burned?
That's all. That's all.
Leave it there.
Okay, so next week's movie, we are continuing the Cage Fun all month long because it's our dear sweet Elle's birthday month. That's what we're doing. Next week's movie is Grand Isle. We will be joined by a special guest. You don't know him, but I do. It's my friend Chris. Follow the podcast on Twitter at GITM Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at WitchXPudding.
And you can follow me at Nocturnical.
Okay, bye.